hit starting to start recording. So, okay, so everyone should know that it is being recorded on Teams.
Nice.
And yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, you know what I'm thinking for Russ? You might as well, what's called shut your volume because it sound just hearing like funny noises in the background, and it's not helpful to our process. Okay. Um, Okay, so we are beginning our class now. Um, and before we get into our main topic, which is in our book, Shomer Emunim, we're going to answer a question that Stig had asked. He wanted me to go through Likutei Maharan, which from Rebbe Nachman of Breslov, which deals with the question that you had asked, Stig. You want me to dive more into, something I mentioned last week, and maybe I mentioned it too much in passing, and it wasn't very clear. Okay, so I'm going to make an announcement for those joining on Clubhouse. Okay, we are beginning we're beginning to move more and more to teams. So and we've discovered in the past that questions asked out loud in Clubhouse do not appear on Teams. In other words, that the recording doesn't carry over. So what I'm asking people in Clubhouse to do is, if you have questions or comments, text them, and our good friend Russ over here will read it out loud for the benefit of that it reaches the recording, the Teams recording. Okay. So special thanks goes to Aviv and Russ for their technical help and support. And I'd like to mention that we are. I'd like to mention first, as I always mention, that if anyone felt any desire whatsoever to donate anything to our class, please don't. Instead, donate to something close to my heart, whether it be the synagogue we are broadcasting from, that which is Am Echad in San Jose, whether it be Chabad.org, Chabad or Breslov.org, or Aish.com, or something else that just helps humanity. Some examples might be Magen David Adom, the Israeli Red Magen David, or United Hatzalah. But anything that really and sincerely helps humanity, that does it. So, with that in mind, let us begin. Our good friend Stig asked me to delve into something I mentioned last week. We're not getting into the book, but it's not off topic. You see, I mentioned something last week, and it felt like it was mentioned in passing when really it was an important key, an important key question.
Sorry, but
yeah, what is it?
It ended here. I think maybe Shalom logged off.
Okay, so you go back in. You go
trying
back
to. I'm not. It's not.
Nice recording.
Yeah,
You're recording on your end.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. We are recording. Okay, so Russ.
I tried to get back in. It says the live room has ended, but check back soon. I'll keep trying, but
okay. If you can't, you can't. It's not. It's at this point. We have to go forward. We can't. We can't be bogged down with the technology. We have to just move forward. Okay. So I am reading now from Likutei Maharan from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. The question, the question was as follows: how is it that when someone changes one way, a person makes amends with God, a person grows spiritually? How is it that the person is protected? What's the spiritual mechanism by which it works? What's the cosmic spiritual mechanism by which it works? So before I dive into the text, let me share outside something from the Zohar HaKadosh. The Holy Zohar says that when that the way the body wears a shoe is the way the soul wears the body. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is only a little tiny edge of the body inserts itself into the shoe. So too only the bottom tiny edge of the soul inserts itself into the body. The majority of the soul is beyond the grasp of the body. The definition of Jewish spiritual growth, according to the Sefer Tal Oros written by Rav Yaakov Meir Shpielman, is that we grow by downloading our soul. That's how we grow. Spiritual growth means you're downloading your soul. The more soul you download, the more you spiritually grow. So you might say more the body you put into the shoe. Maybe you develop the shoe to be more like a boot, so it gets a higher part, so it covers more of the body. So too, that's really what's going on. You're growing your body, so maybe it starts as a sandal, then becomes like a shoe, then it becomes like a boot. You're spiritually growing body, so it covers more and more of your soul.
I'm sorry, what was the original question again?
The real question was, can you please explain this better?
Oh, okay.
That was the original.
Can I can add some context if you like.
Okay, go ahead, Stig.
Yeah, so the reason why it piqued my interest was that so I was reading Akiva Tut's Living Inspired, and he talks about he says something to the effect that our soul is made up of a set of desires. And he's using the example of somebody who's a smoker, and a smoker's desire for a cigarette versus his desire to live. But it makes this point that the soul can really only hold sort of one desire at a time. So the hard work then is to build a character that then chooses the higher desires and lets go of the lower ones, so choosing life in this case. So so when you talked about drawing down aspects of a soul through teshuva, it's it piqued my interest because I think it seems to be some connected concepts here.
Okay, yeah, there is. There definitely is, and let us let me flesh that out.
Mm-hmm.
So now the word tshuva, we have to understand, refers to any movement towards spiritual growth, towards coming close to God. It doesn't mean literally repentance. That might be some aspect of it, but doesn't mean literally repentance. Even the most saintly person is in a process of tshuva, because we're always on the spiritual grow. Whatever we're doing, we're always on the spiritual grow. So it's not enough that we say, okay, our deeds were good until now, nothing to repent for. Nothing. I don't say repent, that's the wrong word. Nothing to improve. That process of improving, that's what we referred to as tshuva. So and that applies to the holiest saint. That you take the biggest tzaddik, he's in the process of doing tshuva. In fact, the reason that he's such a big tzaddik is because he's constantly in a process of tshuva. And so that's really what is happening. Now, let us think this forward. So there's a constant downloading of surrounding areas of the soul that have not yet entered into the body. Think of it as the term of Kabbalah, light and vessels. That's the term used. The body is like the body and its immediate consciousness like a vessel, and the soul is like a light that fills the vessel. That's so light and vessel. So the idea is everything is lights and vessels in Kabbalah. So you need to bring more light into the vessel. That's what it is. Now, interestingly, there's a tie-off over here with what Chabad talks about dira b'tachtonim, making a dwelling place for God below in this world. It means to manifest more of God's light in this world. what we do on an individual level also applies on the universal level. You see that? You hear that?
Maybe one more time.
What applies on the individual level, that we're downloading more of our soul, applies also on the universal level. The universe itself has a soul of holiness called the Shekhinah. That soul of holiness, as more and more of it gets downloaded, as we individually download more and more of our own individual souls, it goes together. It's a wider picture.
Like a hand in hand?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's hand in hand. It's just a question of the parts versus the whole. So the whole Shekhinah is whole divine light is coming down and downloading more. We're downloading more of it through our deeds, and individually, we're also downloading more individual aspects of that apply to ourselves of the Shekhinah, because our soul is connected to the Shekhinah. So that is the process. So the vessel that holds this light is halacha. It says that since the temple was destroyed, there's nothing to God other than the 4 cubits of halacha. That is the vessel that holds it. Welcome, Cindy. Wow, you made a quick shift.
Yeah, she was forced to because
she went. No, she went all levels.
Trying to come, and I was running a tad late, so I signed in.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't going on in the other forum, so I switched over.
Yeah.
To the video.
Yeah. So anyway, so continuing onward. It says that since the temple was destroyed, the Alter Rebbe quotes this later on in the last chapters of Tanya, in the first section of Tanya. Ein loy la'kadosh baruch hu ela dalet amos shel halacha bilvad. There's nothing for the Shekhinah except for the 4 cubits of halacha. So the Shekhinah, has the 4 cubits of halacha to I'm just getting out some napkins here for people so they can enjoy the food. Okay. So that is so that ultimately that's the vessel, and what happens is that holds the light. You can have wonderful ideas, you could have phenomenal ideas, but if it could be a flash in the pan, there's nothing to hold the light. Think about it as a fast spark versus having a light bulb. Maybe if you burn magnesium and you get that big flash, it's brighter than the light bulb. They even say it's technically brighter than the sun, but it's not sustainable. It doesn't hold. The idea of the vessel is to have it hold, like like a light bulb versus burning a little bit of magnesium.
And when you build a campfire,
yeah,
you need the very lightweight grass-like kindling at first.
Right.
Otherwise, you can't just light a log.
Right.
But then you need to build it with bigger and bigger pieces of wood until you have a good fire going with large pieces
exactly. Of wood. Exactly. So I think so you have to build it up, smaller vessels to reach a larger vessel. That's how we grow, little by little. So let's say people who are want to build their spiritual vessel, you're not going to become you're not going to reach full potential at once. It's going to take time. We have to deal with ourselves in a natural human way. A lot of prayer involved. I constantly pray for my own spiritual growth. It's an interesting story of Nosson Nemrov says, but isn't that asking God to take away your free choice? So he said, still do it, because that is your free choice. You have free choice to pray for it. That itself is an expression of free choice. Okay, so here's what I wanted to go into. By the way, this can be also found in Svaria, if you're following along in Svaria. But I'm going to be clear. I'm going to go slowly. Don't feel like you have to follow inside per se. The location, this is from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. It's the first section of Likutei Maran, Torah 21, paragraph 16. Okay, so he's talking about, downloading greater consciousness, which is called sometimes das, which means knowledge. It means, God awareness, real spiritual awareness. And he's talking about levels and levels of this, and how you take what was previously beyond you, and you're bringing it into you. Ushleimus hadashu. I'm going to read and translate. And would say the perfection of das, of divine knowledge, is kishenasa makifim panimi. When we make from the surrounding light inner light, meaning that it was beyond the vessel and now it's in the vessel. Outer, meaning beyond the vessel. Doesn't mean in space. It means, like an idea is just beyond your head, just a little above your head, and then you're bringing it in. And when a person does that, then the person's protected from all troubles. How's that? L'moshel, for example, if someone is seeking and ambushing his fellow to kill him, so then the person has to change his garments so the person is not recognized. As it's written in the book of Job 14. I love the way Rabbi Nachman quotes from everywhere in the Torah, including Tanakh, like on the fingertips. Mishane ponov v'tishalchehu. You change his appearance and send him away. He al yedei shemishanim haponim al yedei levushim acherim niftar min. Of course, when you change his appearance through different garments, this enables him to be free from him. So what is going down there? Okay, so this is the metaphor, and let's repeat it, and then we're going to go into how it actually works. Don't expect to understand how it works yet. Okay, somebody is ambushing another person to kill him. And the victim, in order for safety, wears a disguise, changes his appearance, so he's not recognized.
Yeah.
So too, with the principal aspect of a human being, the Hainu Ba'asechel, which is the person's intellect. That's the highest part of who we are. In the physical sense. Yesh bechinas levushim. There's such an aspect called garments. The hainu asecha makif. That's our surrounding intellect, the intellect that we have not yet integrated, the intellect that's a surrounding light to us. Mm-hmm. That's our garment. V'tzorech laslos mihamakif panini. Have to make from the outer garment an inner garment. We have to take it in. We have to spiritually, in a sense, eat it. Take it in. Make it from a garment into food. And guess what happens when you do that? There's a new set of surrounding light that comes because it's a chain. So when you take in surrounding light, make it inner light, now there's a new level. Have you ever noticed, like when you answer somebody's questions, there's suddenly new questions. There's a new unknown that the person wasn't even aware of before. So you're making from the surrounding light inner light, and then there's a new surrounding light. And from that, a person is saved from all ambushers and attackers.
How so?
Malbush b'gematria chashmal. malbush, the word garment in Hebrew, has the same gematria as chashmal. Chashmal is a surrounding energy force. So the surrounding light around the person serves as a not only as something waiting to be integrated, but also as an energy force. So the higher the person's surrounding light, the more inner light the person is taking, the higher the surrounding light, the more of a force field, a protective force field the person has. And from that force field, all the destructive entities flee. So just to clarify what's a little bit, the word chashmal in the Bible is taken from Ezekiel's vision, the first chapter of Ezekiel, where he talks about the angels and what the chashmal in that context means. It's a protective force field around the realms of holiness, protecting it from the realms of impurity. It keeps the realms of impurity at bay.
Is that the first time in the Tanakh that chashmal appears?
It's the only time I'm aware of. Okay. That I'm aware of. I'm not an expert. I might be wrong, but the only time I'm aware of is in Ezekiel's vision. Look at the Sefer Yecheskel Perek Aleph.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it also related to like with the other classes about the animal soul's desires and that would keep hounding you with those?
Well, that's
away?
it. Well,
because I also know that the holier you are, the more complex those
but
desires are.
Yeah, they complex because they disguise themselves more as holier.
Mm-hmm.
They take on a holier disguise, and that's why they're actually more insidious.
But is that parallel to is this another way of looking at the same thing, or is it different?
Yeah, well, the tzaddik of the Tanya, the person who's totally integrated, he's totally protected. But yeah, there's a level of this. There is a level of this that the animal soul, that there's protection from from earlier levels, from lower levels of the animal soul as the person climbs, and then it gets higher levels, which are in their own way scarier. So the so far clear, everyone? Okay. You know what, Stig, is it clear for you?
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome. And that's what it says in the last chapter of Proverbs. Oiz v'hoda levusha v'tischak liyom acharoin. Might and grandeur are her garments, referring to the garments around the Shechina, and she laughs to the very end. Al yedei halavush, through the garment, shehu bechinas chashmal, which is this aspect of the chashmal, the force field. Shehu levush oiz v'hodor, that is a garment of might and grandeur. Levush chazak v'noah, a garment of strength and beauty. She laughs to the very end. Because the Shechina has no fear at all, as we mentioned above, when that perfected state exists, when the garment around her is so holy because of all the good deeds that the Jewish people do, through all the virtuous deeds, and through the kindnesses, and through all the Torah study, and through all the tzedakah, the charity, and through all that we do as a people. Through that, the Shechina develops a very, very high level of surrounding light. Not only us individually, but the Shechina as a whole. And she is, and her garments are just beautiful and scintillating with beauty and strength. And there is no there's no harmful forces that can even approach.
So we reveal more of Hashem. but our deeds.
Oh, of course. Goes without saying. Just goes without saying. And the main time for this, not the only time, but the main time, is the month of Elul. Is there, and I love the way Rabbi Nachman, how he just uses the Torah as like a prism to see things. It's not, he's not, I don't know, it's very different than, let's say, others, especially you see in Chabad as an example, this, where everything's logically backed up. Rabbi Nachman just like reads, deciphers messages in the. He takes the first letters of the word Lavusha vatischak liyom acharon, her garment, and she laughs to the very end. And he says Rashi Teves Elul. The first letters of the word, I suppose the first letters of this phrase spells Elul, the month of Elul. And it's interesting because Elul is the month of Virgo, the Virgin. So she comes back to purity, to a pure state. So she's ready for union on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur with her cosmic husband, so to speak, Zer Anpin. Of course, we're talking about revelations of God. We're not talking about God's essence. God, that's not what we're talking about here. So does that? So now getting back to this context that Stig had mentioned earlier with Rabbi Tatz's class, the Rabbi, that you were saying that the person. I just need you to remind me. You were saying about what were you saying about what Rabbi Tatz had said? Just could you remind me?
Yeah, he said. Yeah, he said something to the fact that our soul is made up of a set of desires. I paraphrasing. He had a better way of saying it, but but a soul can only, a person can really only hold one of these desires at the time. And I was mentioning this example of a smoker desire for a cigarette versus a life, right? That was
okay. So what it says, remember, it says in Pirkei Avot, in the tractate Avot, Marbe Torah, Marbe Chayim. One who increases Torah increases life. So the person who integrates more and more of the holiness of the Torah will be integrating more and more of a desire for life, and we'll see by nature that these destructive forces are, what they are, what they're for, and will try as best as he or she can to become distant from those drives. And as a result, those the strength of those drives will weaken over time as more light pours in, and as the force field grows stronger to protect against them. So now getting back to the animal soul, as Cindy mentioned, the animal soul, those desires are coming from the animal soul. So eventually, they dissipate, they get weaker and weaker, and they cannot find their way in anymore. However, just as but the person does move up a spiritual level and does get new kinds of desires, that are many of which are disguised holiness rather than actual holiness, and deciphering them is hard sometimes. The place to start with is two things I ask myself. First thing is does the halacha permit it? The second thing I ask myself is this coming from a selfless place or a selfish place? But that's the those are my guidelines. I don't allow it to become too elaborate of a conversation in my head, because I know that
It's
anything could be justified. There are always ways of justifying. So what does that prove? Okay, so with that, we're going to go to our main book. Okay. Okay, we are on page 707, but maybe it's in. Okay, so we were talking about life. We're going to start with 706. That we're talking about different levels of of life, and different so we let us and talking about how there was life beforehand, even before the world was created, and how the Arizal's point of view was that these are spiritual levels of life, not really physical levels. So that is, he sees the 7 universes of the Midrash that were created and destroyed as being the worlds of chaos. Those the 7 lower sphirot in the world of Atzilot, in the world of emanations that crashed because they took in more light than they could handle, and becoming an integral part of the later creation, which begins as an act of tikkun, of reconstituting the shards and the sparks of the shattered spiritual realms. And so that's the Arizal's point of view. I have to say that Rav Isaac of Akko's point of view, as explained by Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, whose yahrzeit is today. Today is the day of the anniversary of Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan's passing. I can't say enough about him. I recommend everyone reads his books. If you're into reading in English, read his books. Nobody, in my opinion, explained Judaism like him, and especially the mystical side of Judaism, but all of Judaism. And he keeps it in balance, the mystical side with the practical side. So you don't have just someone who's going off into a flight of mystical thought, but you have somebody who's keeping it properly bound to halacha. You have the lights and the vessels in balance together. The oiros v'kelim, the izun, balance. Yeah. Okay. That's tikkun, when you have the light and the vessel in balance.
What was
what's it called? The side that's the side that's the tempting side, the side that's not not good side of evil. That either has too much light or too much vessel, but not in balance. Too much constriction or too much freedom, but not the right balance. So the Torah is supposed to bring the balance. So reading from page 706, there's a second line from the top. Following this, the mechanism through which the tohu, which we said was that original undifferentiated state, is rectified by mankind, is either through the performance of Torah and mitzvot, or through great difficulties that a person experiences in this world, through challenging vicissitudes of life or extreme events like the Holocaust. I have a little question mark. I think the Holocaust had other factors as well, although that might have been some contributing factor. And or the soul's experience of death. Now, of course, there's another one, which is tshuva, as we mentioned earlier. Tshuva itself also accomplishes this.
What did you mean by your added statement about the Holocaust?
I think that the Holocaust has there's another program besides the program of God meting out reward or punishment. That runs parallel to it in the world, and that program is brought out by the Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto in that book that's been translated in English as Knowing the God's Plan, which we've learned from sometimes, and that's called Hanhogas HaYichud. That's a plan to set up the world in a way that God's the oneness of control over all reality is revealed is utterly revealed. This oneness is right now, even if we believe it, but it could look like things are so disguised, it could look like there are other actors besides God.
It's always plausible deniability.
Right. There's always a plausible deniability that God was involved. But however, to set up the world in such a way that even evil itself, so that God, and she laughs to the end, that God will have the last laugh, and it will turn everything that was a vehicle for evil into a vehicle to demonstrate his oneness in the world. Not only his oneness of being, but his oneness of control. Mainly on his oneness of control over everything. So that, I believe the Holocaust had a lot to do with that. I don't know why. It's just a very strong gut feeling, and I see tremendous clues to that, including that the Lubavitcher Rebbe himself had no real explanation and compared it to the death of Rabbi Akiva, where the angel said, "This is the Torah, and this is its reward." So, and Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto mentions the death of Rabbi Akiva as an example of this. So I see it, if there was a real if the answer was in terms of reward and punishment, then what's called the Lubavitcher Rebbe would have been able to talk about it. Because that he had access to knowing. This is something it has to be beyond it. There might be it might be that reward and punishment was taken care of in the process of it too. But maybe it was 1% of it, and 99% something else.
Will that hold true for what people went through when Rome destroyed the temple in Jerusalem?
Well, our sages tell us by the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem that because of wanton hatred, people couldn't get along. That's why Jerusalem was destroyed. So there is the same Talmud that tells us we don't know why Rabbi Akiva was taken, does know why the temple was destroyed.
But Rabbi Akiva was taken in the same process. Right?
Yeah, but he didn't personally deserve it.
Right. Okay. Yes.
That was the difference. He didn't personally deserve it. If anything, he was part of the solution rather than part of the problem.
And I think that happens a lot through these major calamities Jews have gone through. Right,
it does. So why is it that people are part of the solution rather than the problem are taken? That's something that plays into Hanhogas Hayichud, the program of divine unity, which I think of as beyond what we understand at this point. That's something for Mashiach to reveal. But we are told that this other program exists. It's sometimes referred to as Hanhogas HaMazal, which Mazal literally means fortune, luck, but it also means the zodiac. The zodiac sign called Mazalot in Hebrew. It comes from a noisel, which means to flow down. So it could be that the zodiac sign zodiac signs are expressions of that, because I see the Ramchal sometimes referred to also as Hanhagas HaMazal interchangeably. So it could be that the Ramchal was into the zodiac signs. He mentions it in a couple of his works. So I think that the zodiac, and astrology has some role in that, and it may shed may point to some clues in that direction. But what it means really is that what happens to a person, it's the part of our lives that whatever happens to us has nothing to do with our deeds. It has to do with some future divine plan, setting up the world for God's oneness of control to reveal itself.
We said that when something יסורים בהם לאדם, יחשש במעשיו, mean that if something happened to you, not comfortable, something that you should first look at yourself.
Well, that's the more likely thing. That's the more likely result. These other events are, you should first look at your deeds. Because regardless, even if it's on Hagas Hamazel, it's usually attached to something you did. That's what Amchal says. It's a famous story the Gemara brings about Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi. He was one day walking in the marketplace, and a calf being led to the slaughter, tried to hide behind him.
Yeah, we just
You just learned it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, right. Okay.
No, you can tell it by our father, yeah.
Okay. So and the calf looked pleadingly with sensing what's coming on, looked pleadingly at Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, and Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi's attitude was, and response was, well, this is your destiny. Go to your destiny. It just is what it is. You know, this is how God designed your destiny.
For this you were made.
Right. Yeah. For this you were made. Exactly. So, as a result, Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi got very, very ill for having that attitude, and he was bedridden. And then there was a weasel bantering around the house, and it's going in and out and everything. And the household tells Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, the household help says, let's get rid of it. And Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi quotes from Psalms 145, V'rachamav al kol ma'asav, and his compassion is on all his creatures. Please leave the weasel alone. And with that, he immediately got better. So so what is going on over here? What is really going on over here? So Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto comments on that again in Das Tfunot, in that book I told you, Knowing the Divine Plan. And he says the truth of the matter is that Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi was not that wrong with the calf. He did something that she should have known better than to do, but he wasn't wrong to the point that he deserved such an illness. He didn't do, it's the extent of the illness he suffered did not fit the extent of what he did. It was disproportionate to what he actually did. And suddenly his compassion on the weasel was also disproportionate to getting healed from such an illness. So what really happened? God piggybacks on Hogas HaYichud, on Hogas Schar V'Einish. I'm going to explain it in English. Just want to say, he piggybacks the program of divine unity on the program of reward and punishment. So, in other words, there has to be some door of human behavior that does open it so it could piggyback on it, but it's not the real reason that what happens. So I believe that, yes, of course, there were some things in the Holocaust that it was piggybacked on. You could say maybe Rabbi Akiva's what's it called? Maybe the way he responded to Tyrannus Rufus sometimes led to what happened to that Tyrannus Rufus was so angry with him that he didn't mind murdering him in a cruel way. These are piggybacks; they're not the real thing. So there is a piggyback effect, but a piggyback effect is not really the thing itself. You understand? You just see something here. So getting back to, does that answer the question?
It also seems similar with October 7th too.
Yeah, it would seem October 7th. You can't say, oh, it was all because the people were, violating Shabbos and violating Simchas Torah Shmini Atzeres on Yom Tov and Shabbos together, and having a party like that. You can't totally put it, because if you guess what, then how do you explain Bondi Beach? Which the people which a similar thing kind of happened in a sense, and there in Australia, and there everybody was totally on board with celebrating Hanukkah.
Well, and the people of October 7th who weren't at the dance festival.
And right, and weren't at the dance festival. Actually, Kibbutz Alumim, the one religious kibbutz which I was a part of, was attacked. I was there. I worked there as a 17-year-old boy for a summer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Kibbutz Alumim, and it was attacked. So you can't really pin it on that. Yes, there could have been certain things that you might say opened the door a little bit, but opening the door is not the same. Besides, people who were there for October 7th, they were Tinoch Shenishba, they mostly did not know, and they had no way of knowing, no way of appreciating. And in a world where religion and politics are so intermingled, it's hard to it's justifiable not to always feel very positive about religion. Why would you look there for spirituality if it's an arm of the government? A government that plays games. Why would you look there for spirituality? I remember Rabbi Jonathan Sachs quoting from a French traveler who traveled to the United States in about the 1820s or 30s, and he noted how religion was doing so well in the United States despite his expectations, because he assumed that a separation of church and state meant that religion would suffer because it had no longer state support. But on the contrary, it was going well. Why was it going well? Because it had legitimacy in people's eyes. People did not see their religious leaders as arms of politicians or as arms of big business interests. They knew that their leaders were not that. They knew that there was a better case to be made that their leaders were genuinely inspired by the message of the religious teachings. And so in a world where, and he said that it's very, by Jonathan Sachs mentioned, it's very interesting how religion has a lot of power in England where he lived, but very little influence. Whereas in America, it has so much influence, but very little power. I'm sorry, I'd rather be on the side of influence than power.
It wasn't just one religion either.
It wasn't just one religion either. No, of course not.
Because now we have the freedom to have minority religions.
Exactly. It wasn't just one religion. We're talking about, people's genuine desire to be connected to God, however they can best come to that. So this is a slow, so back to 707, this is a slow and gradual tikkun process, the process of cosmic repair that occurs continuously until the arrival of the Messiah, when the entirety of creation will be reinstated to the position that it was before Adam had eaten the fruit. So before Adam had eaten the fruit, speaking of fruits, it's going to be Tu B'Shvat tonight. So we go back to the original fruit, but that's a whole other topic on its own. So to bring the whole creation back to that, the subsequent cosmic repair that Adam was supposed to have originally performed will be finally completed. It will be even completed in a better way, because the way that Adam would have completed it back then would have excluded the realm of much of the Sitra Achra, much of this side of evil. But by now, because of all we've been through, much of the powers of evil have been transformed to good. So it's going to be a more inclusive kind of cosmic repair. And that's actually what Eve had in mind when she ate the fruit, according to Lubavitcher Rebbe. She did a sin for the sake of heaven.
By the way, back on the Holocaust thing here.
Yeah.
Is it possible that he's not necessarily saying that the Holocaust occurred because of punishment, but that now that it occurred for whatever reason, it contributes to the process of tikkun
Right.
nonetheless.
Right, it does.
Right.
There's no question. There's no question it contributes to the process of tikkun. But I just want to clarify that in terms of reward and punishment, maybe that was, I don't know. I'm just using this as a metaphor. I don't know numbers for real. I have no way of knowing numbers.
I guess what I'm saying.
I'm saying maybe it was 1% of it.
I don't necessarily read into it that he's saying that
Okay.
Holocaust, the cause of Holocaust was, was
Right, but it does contribute to the tikkun. I agree with you. I agree. Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you, Russ, for pointing that out. Yeah, it definitely contributes to the tikkun. So it will then be the final tikkun in this process, the final cosmic repair in this process, in the form of the rectification of humanity's righteous, who had passed away all of world history, and it's known as Tchiyat HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead. Although their renewed existence in concert with the post-Tikkun world order will be in a completely unrecognizable, new, reconfigured, integrated state incomparable to their original state of existence. So let us unpack that a little. The resurrection that's going to happen at Tchiyat HaMeitim is at that period is going to be for all those who are, who are worthy. We have a tradition that all Jews are going to get up. Mm-hmm. We have a tradition that the righteous from among the nations, and that word could be used pretty well. I think there could be a pretty wide net with that word. I don't know any reason why not. Mm-hmm. Might include simply a normal human being who just tried to live as good as he or she could, not necessarily somebody who was too knowledgeable or knew too much. Mm-hmm. Will get up at the resurrection, and that will and that period, the body will be purified from its baser cravings, and will be a proper vessel for a greater download of the soul. So more of the soul, there won't be a fight anymore between the body and the soul. It'll be that the soul will be able to enter the body peacefully, and therefore there won't be that friction between the two. Because what happens in the grave when the body decomposes is it's going through its purification process in order to decompose out the elements of selfishness and self-servingness that was there, of lower limited consciousness. That's what selfishness and self-servingness is. It's a lower and more limited state of consciousness. More animal, right? That's why an animal's very self-centered for the most part. Of course there are exceptions, and there are cases of animals in tremendous cooperation,
helping each other,
right? But otherwise they wouldn't reproduce, otherwise they wouldn't have children, otherwise you wouldn't see them around either, but the nature of life is giving. So for them to have life, there has to be some modicum of giving. But
instead of selfishness, I would just say survivalist.
Yeah, but
that's a self. In order for you to survive, that's about yourself.
Right, exactly. But that's a limited state of consciousness, because it's a fear-based. Like, if I don't do this or that, I'm not going to survive. Mm-hmm. It's very fear-based, and it's very narrow. And it's I'm not saying that in what's going a judgmental way. I'm a human being too. I also have my share of that. Mm-hmm. There's no question I have my share of that. Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying that by the time of the resurrection, I would presume that kind of consciousness will be cleared away. The body will become more spiritually aware itself, as it says, and all flesh shall see that the word of God speaks. It says in Sephania. So all flesh seeing means that the flesh itself will become holy, become a really pure vessel for the light.
will all pleasures that we know of in this world, including like eating a wonderful meal and all these other pleasures, does that become all of a sudden we don't have those anymore because we're beyond it?
Oh, so this is this
is spiritual pleasure.
Right. So this, to give an example of spiritual pleasure, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says that there's a very high level of wisdom that if a person reaches it, he or she doesn't need to eat anymore. It's it's kind of like the fruit of Gan Eden, where the eating physically and eating mentally was this one and the same.
Moshe, when he was
up for 40 days, 40 nights, and Rabbi Nachman Breslov said it applied to him. He used to fast from Shabbos to Shabbos when he was young. His mother asked him how he did it. He quoted the verse from Ecclesiastes, and wisdom gives life to the one who has it. And he was talking about that level of wisdom, just to give you a sense of it. So let's when that resurrection happens, we will be in a state that won't be recognized it'll be very, very different. We'll still be biological beings, and we're told from the Ramchal, from Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, that the world will still be physical at that point. It will be. It won't. It starts to turn spiritual in the 7th millennium. That's a whole nother story, but I'm not going to go into right now. So anyways, I wish everyone a beautiful Tu B'Shvat. Remember to do something for Tu B'Shvat. I encourage it strongly. It's a time for growing. We are each of us are like a fruit. You think about it, we're a body with a soul in it, we're each a fruit from the tree of life. So, and we all have fruits that we give to the world, the fruits of our efforts that we give to the world. This is not just poetic language. This really is. We have an aspect of that in us too, and so I advise you to please do something special for Tu B'Shvat, special prayers for the trees, and literally for the trees too. I don't mean only for us, but I mean also for vegetative life and all that. We're connected with it, and so that please, do special things for Tu B'Shvat. Make a Tu B'Shvat Seder. There's no specifics for a Tu B'Shvat Seder. It's a minhag. But, some people get a new fruit and say Shechiyanu. Some people eat from the 7 species that Israel is, praised for. You can see that in Deuteronomy, in the Torah portion of Akev, right at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And some people, they have a more specific Tu B'Shvat Seder that's from the book of Chemdat Yamim. If you want a more...
4 kinds of fruit.
Exactly. If you want that kind of Seder, I recommend looking at aish.com. It has a beautiful rendition of what that's about. And I want to wish everyone a Shavua Tov Varach. I hope everyone enjoyed. Yeah. Have a beautiful and happy week. Okay. See you later.
Nothing in a chance.
Yeah.
Thank you.